What's up, people? I hope you had a great day. My name is Rick, and today I discuss investing with ChatGPT disguised as Warren Buffett. We chatted about stocks, ETFs, dividend and growth investing, crypto, IPOs, investment risks, and so much more. So stay till the end of the video because we're gonna get a lot of useful information here. And I'm also gonna tell you how to get correct information from ChatGPT in order to invest properly, because it's true that ChatGPT is intelligent, but it's also pretty dumb. Of course, the real Buffett will probably ask questions like how to play bridge better than Bill Gates, or how can I live so long drinking Coca-Cola every day, or am I really smarter than Charlie Munger? But today we want to dive more into investing stuff. By now, most of you should know what ChatGPT is, so I'm gonna go straight to the point, but in case you don't, you can check out this video that I'm gonna link here. Now, to see if ChatGPT is in the mood to talk to me, I humbly introduce myself. Hi, I'm Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time. Do you know me? I just learned how to use a computer. Hello, Warren Buffett. It's an honor to meet you. I'm familiar with your reputation, blah blah blah, and how can I assist you? Well, Warren Buffett has been sad lately. He's been sad because so many people lost a lot of money on stocks and crypto in the past few years, so I warmed up with a simple question. I couldn't sleep today, I said, thinking, how can I convince people that investing in the S&P 500 is probably better than investing in individual stocks? Can you help me? And I certainly liked its answer. I'm not gonna read all of it, of course. If you want, you can pause the video, but basically it told me about the broad diversification of the S&P 500, about the low fees, but the most important point was in the end, because he remarked how most actively managed funds and also hedge funds underperform this index in the long term. So basically, one ETF to rule them all, as a powerful Sauron would say. Then I wanted to test him to see if he really knows something about me, and in fact, he did say many things about me, about Buffett, that made him one of the greatest investors of all time. One of the things he mentioned was the consistency of his returns. And in fact, my next question was if he knew the historical returns of my company, Berkshire Hathaway. And I gotta say, this guy is prepared. The average return over the last 50 years is approximately 20.5%, compared to around 10% of the S&P 500 and to less than 10% for most hedge funds. But reading carefully, I kind of found myself confused about something, and I realized that ChatGPT was actually trying to impress Warren Buffett, but didn't really know everything. In fact, he said that the return of the company is not only due to stock appreciation, but also to dividends paid to the shareholders. You're right on almost everything, except dividends. We never pay dividends because we prefer to reinvest all of our earnings for growth. You're correct that Berkshire Hathaway has not paid dividends to shareholders, but instead reinvested all of its earnings back into the business. This is what Warren Buffett always preaches. In fact, he always says that companies pay dividends when they don't know what to do with the money, or when they're so mature that there is no space for growth anymore. So since we're talking about dividends, I know that most YouTubers love them, and it's always a great topic that everybody talks about on YouTube. And it's not like I have something against dividends, don't get me wrong, but it's easy to be happy with dividends if you earn tons of money. Because if you invest $500,000 and you get, let's say, 3% interest, you're getting $15,000 every year of passive income. But the question is, do you have $500,000 to invest? Because I don't. So after a call with Bill Gates and a couple of financial statements, Buffett went back to the chat and said, since I'm Warren Buffett, I don't really like dividend investing. Do you want to try to convince me otherwise? And of course, ChatGPT felt a little bit of pressure and didn't want to express an opinion. But it did describe pretty well the difference between dividend investing and growth investing. Namely that if you buy companies that pay dividends, you're getting a steady stream of income, because these companies tend to be more established, mature, and financially stable. Growth investing, on the other hand, focuses on companies with a high potential for future growth. So better returns, but also higher risks. So at this point, I asked him what I always presumed, and that is that maybe the age might influence the preference between dividends and growth. I always thought that when you're older, you have more money, more responsibilities, so it's safer to invest in established and mature companies that pay dividends. But when you're young, you want to take risks, you want to change your life, and you know that if you invest in a stock market and a crisis comes and take away 40% of your portfolio, you know that in the long term you're still gonna win because of the appreciation of your assets. And in fact, that's pretty much what the chat told me. Although in the end it reminded me that every person should decide their own specific goals, risk tolerance, and financial situation. And yes, I agree with that. But since Buffett is like a good grandpa and he knows how many people love dividends, he asked, can you tell me what are the best performing dividend ETFs of the last 10 years? And I must say that ChatGPT is pretty impressive with this, but in my experience it also makes some mistakes from time to time. So my suggestion is use it as a basis, but also do your own research. So what he did is, he gave me a list of 5 ETFs, and I must say that he chose them pretty well. In fact, the SPDR S&P 500 Dividend ETF has a wonderful dividend yield of 4.19% and grew almost 9% per year since inception in 2015. And the other 4 that he mentioned are also great dividend ETFs. Now, to conclude the topic, dividend growth, Buffett asked, can you tell me, using ETFs as reference, what performed better in the last 20 years between dividend ETFs and growth ETFs? And the chat's answer was, of course, that growth ETFs in the long term have performed better, but they tend to be more volatile in the short term. Now, this is, in my opinion, one of the best things about ChatGPT, and that is that you don't need to search on Google, compare websites, look for different ETFs, but instead you just formulate the question here, and ChatGPT, within a matter of seconds, is going to tell you everything about the returns, performance, dividends, and whatever you need. That's why Microsoft investing over $1 billion on OpenAI is a great move, in my opinion, because now they're going to implement ChatGPT in their own browser, which is Microsoft Edge, and Edge in the future is going to be a tough competitor for Google. And by the way, I found that some AI fans have already created an extension that you can connect to your browser, and it shows you ChatGPT responses while you browse on the internet. Alright, but let's move on to a new topic, cryptocurrencies, which, by the way, in the last few weeks are surprising us in many ways, but Buffett doesn't like them, so I expressed this by asking ChatGPT, why do people keep investing in cryptocurrencies if I always tell them that they have no real value? And I actually liked the answer, because besides reasons like people are attracted to new investments or people want to get rich quick, ChatGPT highlighted that the fact that cryptocurrencies are decentralized might even be an advantage because they're not tied up to any physical commodity or real-world asset. Think about it. First of all, it's more transparent and there is less risk of interference or manipulation by a single entity like a bank or a government. And additionally, the transaction become more secure and tamper-proof. Now, you probably know that Buffett is against cryptocurrencies. He says they have no value, but today he wanted to explore new words, so he asked ChatGPT, what could be a real-world use case that will make the value of crypto grow in the future? And I think that the reply of ChatGPT is just great. I mean, he forgot to mention that you can buy drugs with it or illegal stuff, but still he mentioned some really interesting things. One is the ease of online payments, which, if you think about it, among beautiful things, might also have something to do with buying drugs on the dark web. Then the ease of sending money across borders, which again sounds like something to do with illegal activities, but well, it cannot be all roses, right? Then he mentioned the power of decentralized finance, the supply chain management, and the fact that cryptos are scarce. So this might be as well a reason to drive their value up in the future. So this is when Warren Buffett, surprised by the fact that cryptos might actually have a reason to be useful, started having dark thoughts like Anakin at the end of Star Wars Episode 3. So he started asking some depressing questions like, can you tell me if the stock price of my company will grow or decline when I'll move on to a better life? And after insisting a bit because the chat was feeling interrogated, he actually managed to get an answer from ChatGPT that told him that, as a matter of fact, it's common for the stock price of a company to experience a short-term decline following the death of a CEO or founder, but that if the CEO is an iconic figure, like me, it could also have a positive effect. I personally wish Buffett to live 100 more years because he's such a great person, and also because it would be the longest use of compound interest in the history of man. But I have to admit that from time to time, I do ask myself this question. I don't want to be mean, but he's not so young anymore, and his company has a huge weight in the American economy and in the S&P 500. Sorry, Warren. Alright, let's say on the negative now. You probably know that Warren Buffett is against IPOs, initial public offerings. Namely, he's against buying a stock of a company that has just entered the stock market. And this is because there is not enough financial information to be able to foresee, without Buffett's degree of certainty, if investing in the company is a good move or not. But Buffett, in 2020, did buy a company that just entered the stock market, and that was Snowflake. So since Snowflake is down more than 40% now compared to the IPO, he started doubting himself and asked the chat, can you tell me how come I might have made the mistake of buying Snowflake at the IPO and why people shouldn't invest in IPOs? Now, this is an important point. When a new company enters the stock market, there is usually a lot of hype and everybody talks about it. And the feeling you have is that you want to buy it right away because if the company in the future grows 10 times or 100 times, you want to be able to talk to your friends and say, I was there from the beginning. But the truth is that buying IPOs is almost always a bad investment Benjamin Graham explains this in the book The Intelligent Investor, but now we have ChatGPT, so we can have an answer quicker than having to read a 600 pages book. Among other reasons, ChatGPT reminds us not only that you don't have enough information about the company, which is the main reason, but also that at their IPOs, companies are usually overvalued because everybody wants to get in as soon as possible. But let's get back to positive stuff, guys. One of the powerful uses that you can make of ChatGPT when it comes to investing is to ask general questions, like Buffett did when he had an argument with Charlie Munger and asked about the 5 best criteria to choose a stock. I'm not going to read you all, but it's important for you to know that you can ask these kind of questions. And of course, ChatGPT suggested checking the financials, the management of the company, the industry trends, the valuation, and the risk. To conclude the video, we can't forget that Buffett invests mostly in stocks, but there are many other ways to diversify your portfolio. So asking this question, ChatGPT reminded us that we can invest in bonds, in real estate, in commodities like gold or oil, in international stocks, and in alternatives like private equity, venture capitals, or cryptocurrencies. Maybe some of you will feel kind of lost right now, but we'll go through how to invest in all of them later. But what surprised me was, why didn't ChatGPT mention ETFs? So when I asked him why he didn't mention it at all, ChatGPT was humble enough to admit the mistake and apologize. He apologized so much that I kind of felt bad afterwards. But this is the point that I told you before. When you ask these kind of questions about investment advice to ChatGPT, sometimes it makes mistakes. So you have two ways. Either you do your own research, or you ask a second question like, are there other investments that you didn't tell me? Now this is my last point, and in my opinion is one of the most important. So I want to give you the tools to be able to invest in all these assets through the use of ETFs. First of all, let me mention that in the video, the 8 worst investing mistakes you can possibly make, that I'm gonna link in the description below, I mentioned the Old Weather portfolio by Ray Dalio, and I showed you how you can have a really greatly diversified portfolio with stocks, bonds, and commodities like gold. And in the video, I tell you exactly which ETFs and how you can buy them. So if you missed the video, you can find it in the description below. But getting back to ChatGPT, let's exploit this poor AI a little bit more and ask which ETFs are available that cover all different types of assets. Now, ChatGPT gave me a complete answer mentioning stock ETFs, bond ETFs, commodity ETFs, real estate ETFs, and so on. So basically what I want to say is you can buy ETFs of all kind of assets you want, and you can just buy them easily using a brokerage app like Robinhood, Webull, or M1 Finance. And in case you want to know more, you can just ask for some more details. For instance, if you ask an example of ETF for each asset, you get really good options. But remember that if you want ChatGPT to give you such answers, you need to be specific. Here, for example, I told ChatGPT to base its suggestions on the performance of the last 10 years. So I'm not going to read all of them. Feel free to pause the video if you need, but this is basically it. This was the conversation between Warren Buffett and our dear ChatGPT. I actually had many more points. I could have made a 30 minutes video, but I didn't want to bore you with a long one. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, consider subscribing to my channel and dropping a beautiful like to this video. I wish you a great day or evening, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!